Disclaimer. This video contains music and video footage from a game I didn't create. Just Cause 3 is owned by Avalanche Studios and Square Enix. This video contains violence, typically involving firearms, simulated depictions of revolution/domestic terrorism, and spoilers for Just Cause 3. Viewer discretion is advised. This video contains opinions from some guy on the internet whose opinions don't matter. I'm not trying to attack any other opinions, nor do I believe that my opinion is in any way factual or objective. Don't let my opinion influence yours. Gather your own opinion by consuming the source material. If you hate opinions other than yours, please use discretion when commenting. This video is not intended for children under the age of 13, nor is my channel. The Child Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA, states that nobody at the age of 13 should have, among other things, a YouTube account. Hello boyos, girlos, and non-binary genderlos, and welcome to The Grind, the show where I review games and expect the viewers to actually watch the video. Today we're looking at Just Cause 3, a third-person shooter sandbox created by Avalanche Studios and published by Square Enix. It is the third installment of the Just Cause franchise, which is weird because I've never covered a sequel before. More on that in the updates. I'm also not covering any of the DLC, just the base game. Maybe if I get the DLC I can do an addendum or something. The game follows Rico Rodriguez, an agent formerly associated with an agency only known as The Agency, a covert arm of the CIA, best known for overthrowing powerful government leaders through rallying the people into uprisings. Why they do this has never been confirmed, at least to my knowledge. Regardless, Just Cause 3 follows Rico's adventure to his homeland of Medici as he broke away from the agency to do so. He works to assist a revolution against the tyrannical leader and total ham sandwich General Sebastiano di Ravello, who has been harnessing a secret ore known as Bavarium to create powerful explosive weapons and magnetic technology, and plans to take over the world with it. Obviously, Rico and the gang have to stop him. Our story begins approximately 20 years before Just Cause 3 takes place, where Medici is heading into its next presidential election, where General Sebastiano di Ravello is working his way up the military ranks. Mind you, not with actual skill, but with threats of violence and using some higher-ups' propensity for drinking alcohol. He plans to seize power from President Dante come the next election, by plunging the country into a state of emergency and replace the democracy with a military solution, being a dictatorship under di Ravello's iron fist. With the election right around the corner, he had to act fast, and started a rebellion with disgruntled officers Dushka and DeLuca, and the agency, surprisingly. After the country was thrown into anarchy, Di Ravello got Dushka and his rebels to assassinate President Dante to prevent an election entirely, nullifying candidate Rosa Manuela's chances of winning entirely, and allowing Di Ravello's plans to be put into motion. Di Ravello killed thousands, including his two captains and members of the agency, and the Rodriguez family. Di Ravello made sure that the house was burned to the ground, but luckily for Rico, Tom Sheldon of the agency swooped in and saved him before recruiting him into the agency, kickstarting the franchise as a whole and Rico's career as a man not to be trifled with. Fast forward 20 years to when the game takes place, and Rico returns to Medici against the agency's wishes, along with Sheldon, who is seemingly just there to deliver some weapons. Rico is there to meet up with an old childhood friend, Mario Frigo, to aid with the rebellion against Di Ravello, and ends up meeting Dima Ali Umar Al-Masri. This leads to an upgrade of Rico's grappler from the previous game, which gives him a retractor he can use to pull things, instead of two things automatically being pulled into one another, and a wingsuit, which he can use to basically fly. He uses these things to destroy Vis Electra, a military base powering the CENTCOM base at Cima Leone, which in turn powers the military bases in Insula Fonte. In retaliation, Di Ravello strikes the town of Costa del Porto in order to lure out the rebellion to snuff it out. The plan nearly works, and despite Rico's intervention, the city is burned to the ground. After the loss, Rico is tasked with searching for Dima's Bavarium scanner, with Sheldon begging Rico to give it to him in an attempt to possibly get more agency aid in the rebellion. Rico declines the offer and later brings him the broken scanner after he blows it and the base is bent up. Rico is sent to retrieve defective Dr. Zeno Antithakara, who worked for Di Ravello. In retaliation, Di Ravello launches an attack on Insula Fonte, where Rico assists the rebels in fighting off Di Ravello for the time being, before a Bavarium nuke is launched, which he must ride and manually disable, as Zeno's codes for whatever reason don't work to stop it. Rico sets the missile to hit Cima Leone's CENTCOM, destroying it completely. Now, this is almost entirely irrelevant to the story, but I have to mention it. The 9th quest in the game, of Cows and Wine, begins with a drunk Mario pretending to have been turned into a cow, and that Rico must kiss the cow to return him to normal, resulting in Rico doing so, predictably not doing anything but giving Mario a laugh. This caught me incredibly off guard and cemented my love for Mario as a character. Now back to the actual story. A battle occurs in Cinta, where Rico meets Annika and Tio, who assist him throughout the second and third acts. After stealing a Bavarian-powered Imperator tank, Dima and Zeno take it apart, leading to the creation of an EMP. This event leads to the arrival of the Black Hand, first seen in Just Cause 1, to assist Di Ravello in dealing with the rebellion and training his soldiers, as he's paying them in Bavarium, which, as we've seen, will only make matters worse for the rebellion. Meanwhile, Sheldon meets up with Di Ravello, of all people, to discuss the deal between him and the agency, angered that Sheldon taught the rebels how to destroy his Imperators. Di Ravello now looks like a fool and burns Sheldon's hat as a way to tell him he's in hot water, before saying he has ears in the Cove Grata contra Bandera, where the rebels have been headquartered this whole time. Sheldon arranges a meeting with Rico that night. He warns Rico that Di Ravello has amassed a large army headed straight for the Cove, globe. Rico predictably asks if Tom is a mole, to which he dodges the question until Rico rephrases it as working for both sides, before Sheldon confirms it. Mario, injured from a previous mission, stays to fight, against Rico's wishes, whilst Tio and Annika leave for a short time to retrieve heavier weapons. They win the battle at the cost of the EMP and many soldiers' lives. Mario hatches a plan to mislead Di Ravello's forces using Tom as their mole for a change. This plan works, and Rico destroys Coda Dracone's Vivarium reactor, leaving only one left, an Instalis Riate's Falco Maxime CENTCOM. Thanks to the battle at Coda Dracone, Rosa Manuela returns from hiding to rally the people with her sheer charisma and good standing with the citizens before Di Ravello's takeover. She meets up with the rebellion and notices Zeno and calls him a traitor. He insists that he defected, but Rosa points out that he was the one that forged documents to end her chances of presidency, and Mario nearly shoots him before Rosa merely locks him up in a rebel jail as it's time to build a fair Medici with fair trials. After derailing a Bavarian train, Annika refers Rico to a prison camp holding many of her friends and allies, to which he breaks them out. Sheldon, who's been almost entirely absent since his exposure as a mole, refers Rico to Di Ravello's plans to transport a Bavarian warhead outside of Medici to use who knows where. The plan involves Sheldon taking out the driver of the plane whilst Rico fights off what Di Ravello throws at them. The plan goes off without a hitch before Di Ravello sends some black hand after Zeno and Rosa. Cut to Mario trying to smuggle some of Di Ravello's military equipment through a heavily fortified wall that the rebellion has captured, originally created to keep the public out of military operations, and behind which is a ruined set of cities which were destroyed for an unknown reason in an event only known as the Burning of the North. A raid is then sent after the wall as Rosa is now there, and that is where Zeno is locked up. Zeno almost escapes and is revealed to have been a bigger mole than Sheldon, proving Rosa's suspicions. He's then killed by Rico during a helicopter chase. Mario then tells Rico that many in the Cove have died and that it's time to end the war. Rico agrees with the sentiment and they go after Falco Maxime. Rico and Dima plan to go over there and destroy the information about Bavarium and its weaponization, setting back research by 50 years or more. Rosa thinks Bavarium could have beneficial uses, but Rico disagrees. They get to the CENTCOM tower before Dima begins acting strangely. Rico asks her how long it will take for her to hack the FOW, but she says she doesn't know, and that the data will have to be destroyed manually. Rico tries to discourage her from doing it, but she insists that Rico having to ride another missile is too risky, before she grapples him to a nearby jet flying by before saying it's okay. Dima then activates missiles in a heroic sacrifice, blowing up her, the CENTCOM, and all of its research. Mario calls Rico to ask him to come to Rosa's speech before Rico informs him of Dima's death. Mario is understandably saddened, but the war must go on. Rico is sent after Di Ravello after learning that he escaped through a chopper during the battle. Before leaving, Mario asks him what he'll do when Di Ravello is dead. Rico says he'll have a drink on a beach, alone. Rico goes to the volcano island and fights Di Ravello, who is piloting the most powerful attack chopper yet seen. Rico defeats him and the helicopter crashes, and Di Ravello crawls out, claiming to be immortal before he reaches for his revolver, to which Rico takes it. The player is given the option to shoot him. Regardless of your choice, Di Ravello dies and his rule is shattered as a result, finally freeing Medici from its tyrannical ruler and bringing it back to its former glory. Rico is seen enjoying the drink he wanted, just like the one on the game's startup screen, and the game ends.
This is pure insanity!
Just Cause 3 follows the gameplay of its predecessors and improves upon it greatly. The gameplay is divided into 3 major sections, being exploration, combat, and liberation. I'll explain the exploration first. Medici is a large country with bustling cities and many things to see and destroy. Rico has his grappler from Just Cause 2, albeit the fact that it has numerous upgrades. In the original Just Cause, Rico's grappler was a gun that could only stick to vehicles and had limited uses. In Just Cause 2, however, it got spicier with the ability to grapple not only to vehicles, but people, objects, and even the environment, allowing the parachute to be a very viable way of climbing places, as well as gliding. You could also force 2 objects or enemies together, but this was improved in Just Cause 3. The grappler is what makes Rico's combat so interesting, but for the exploration segment, I'll explain how it gets you across the map. Now Rico can pull 2 objects together manually, and this can open heavy doors and break things. But Rico also now has a wingsuit, which when used in conjunction with the parachute and grappler can get Rico across the map faster than a car at times. There aren't as many collectibles in Just Cause 3 as there are in Just Cause 2, but they are more interesting than before. There are Di Ravello's audio logs, which detail his rise to power, vintage gun parts, which unlock 3 new guns for collecting them, as well as a black and white mode for the game, Daredevil jumps, which unlock new vehicles after jumping them, ancient tombs, to which Rico pays his respects and unlocks a vehicle, and rebel shrines, which when lit unlock free fast travel on that region of the map. There's also a wide variety of vehicles to try and use throughout the game, keeping driving fresh should you decide to do that. I know I drove most of the time. Mario's Garage has also helped with this, as you can put your favorite vehicles essentially on speed dial. Next is the combat. Rico gets 3 gun slots, which give him a dual-wielded weapon, a 2-handed weapon, and an explosively powerful weapon. There's a massive variety of weapons in the game, though I used mostly the same ones. Rico's grappler is incredibly fun to use in combat as well, with my favorite activity being launching soldiers into structures and collapsing them. But you can also just grapple kick them, leading to some funny kills with the right positioning or even grappling them to moving vehicles. Sometimes I'd willingly use only my grappler due to it being that fun to use. Vehicles are often armed with weapons, which can be useful at times. Now comes the meat and potatoes of Just Cause 3's gameplay. Liberation. Liberation is a mechanic unique to the Just Cause series, at least as far as I'm aware, wherein destroying government property, often referred to as chaos objects, builds a chaos meter, which is just a counter to show how much you've destroyed. But destroying stuff in a certain area allows the area to be liberated, freeing it from military control, and often giving you rewards. As for methods to destroy things, bullets work just fine, but you can also retract them, grapple things into them, drive into them, or use your remote explosives, which have been made infinite compared to Just Cause 2's limited supply. There's also minigames across the map which give you gears of a certain type. Each minigame gives you up to 5 gears depending on your score, and gears can be traded to get gear mods, which increases your capabilities in game. I didn't use this feature that much due to the minigames seeming unappealing compared to the story, and yeah, it made it more difficult, but in the end I didn't need them, and I only got one, being the double retractors upgrade, which increases the retractor count to 4, which is admittedly only useful on certain objects like water towers and sphere tanks.
This is pure insanity!
First in the gripes is the fast travel. I understand why they took out infinite free fast travel from the get-go as seen in Just Cause 2, as it made world exploration entirely skippable, which the devs didn't want you to skip for obvious reasons. But now you have to light just under 50 rebel shrines, which by the time you do that, you're only going to be in sandbox mode. Which isn't an inherently bad thing, as it will help liberate the remaining provinces, but most people aren't going to be 100%ing the game, especially with how dense with content the Just Cause series is. Fast travel is something I didn't know about until halfway through Just Cause 2, which I then used to skip all need for the excessive driving. Next is this wonky thing with my performance issues, which won't affect the game's rating as I probably didn't have good specs and I'll check it in editing. But for some ungodly reason, cutscenes took forever, as it would wait for someone's lips to stop moving to progress to the next bit of audio, but the game played the audio at normal speed, yet the animations were far slower, resulting in really long, frequent cutscenes. It also happened in game dialogue, as sometimes gameplay was tied to the character shutting up. Finally, the gear mods. Gear mods felt randomly thrown in, especially as you have to 5-star difficult or unfair minigames to get close to getting them, and for what they're worth, half of them weren't useful at all. It didn't help that you have to liberate a province before doing the minigames, and when the game roadblocks you by needing to liberate provinces, it doesn't encourage you to do the minigames, as most of the time you'll just want to get back to the story as fast as you can, meaning the minigames are left unplayed or played minimally. If only there was a better way to integrate the progression of upgrades into gameplay, like the mission time for an upgrade introducing the retractor, remote bombs, and wingsuit organically and shaking up the gameplay loop.
This is pure insanity!
First in the Gushing Points is the grappler. I've already gone into detail about how much of an improvement this thing was from Just Cause 1 and 2, even if I love Just Cause 2 grappler a lot. Just the sheer amount of antics you can get into with skillful grappler use is awesome and really amusing at times. It's not too dissimilar to Vauban's Tether Orb from Warframe, and that thing makes me giggle with sadistic glee, so this thing, which is much stronger, is just so much more fun. Might as well throw on the wingsuit in this point too, as it's an awesome upgrade and I never thought it'd be fun to just glide, but Just Cause 3 somehow does that. Shame that it had to be left out of Just Cause 2 though. Next, the characters. Rico is a badass as always and is really fun and interesting protagonist. Sheldon is still great even if this game made me mad at him a little. And the new characters are great as well, with Mario the hilarious best friend, Dima the adorable hero, and Di Ravello, the hammiest villain that isn't named Vahek. Other characters like Annika, Tio, Zeno, etc. are also pretty good, but not as notably great as the ones I've already mentioned. The soundtrack to the game fits the game perfectly as an action-packed adventure through a gorgeous landscape, where the ambient music is calm and serene yet still beautiful. And the action music is just full of the spunk needed to make the action scenes feel that bit more actiony. Lastly, Medici itself is full of life and incredible to explore, as it's a beautiful landscape that is just amazingly crafted. It's so fun to explore the areas within it and just take in the environment.
This is pure insanity!
I'm going to begin this one with some comparisons. Just Cause 2 versus Just Cause 3 is quite a hotly debated topic within the Just Cause fandom, and for good reason. Both games are quite different, and yet both are really good on their own merits. Just Cause 2 is a massive improvement over its predecessor, and in my opinion, Just Cause 3 does the same thing to its predecessor. Sure, there's some things I don't like the minigames, but many small things are optimized in much better ways. The wingsuit is an awesome addition to the game and actually allows you to move across the map without vehicles or fast travel without it being a chore at the cost of the parachute's usefulness. Granted, the parachute is still useful for doing what a parachute actually does, but just most of the time you won't need it. The grappler is a 100% upgrade from Just Cause 2 with no downsides compared to it. The vehicles are a lot easier to maneuver when on top of one. It's just optimizations like that make this game so special. The game on its own is also amazing with a great story, human characters, and really fun gameplay. The game is a blast, no pun intended, and left me wanting more. Sure, it's a very long game, but it was fun all the way through. This game gets a 9 out of 10.
This is pure insanity.
Here is your teaser for the next episode of The Grind.
Ivan, are you there?
Thank you for watching this episode of The Grind. What did you think of Just Cause 3? Does this video inspire you to pick it up? Let me know. What games would you like to see me cover next on The Grind? Comment down below and maybe it'll become a future episode. Anyway, I'm off to go get my chaos counter up, so I'll see you next time. Goodbye.